In this question, you will be asked to give your opinion about a familiar topic. After you hear the question, you will have 15 seconds to prepare your response and 45 seconds to speak.
Some people like to send text messages when they need information. Others prefer to call people on their cell phones for the information they need. Explain which method you prefer and why.
Please prepare your answer after the beep. Please begin speaking after the beep.
In this question, you will read a short passage about a campus situation and then listen to a talk on the same topic. You will then answer a question using information from both the reading passage and the talk. After the question, you will have 30 seconds to prepare your response and 60 seconds to speak. A student has written a letter to the campus newspaper. You will have 50 seconds to read the letter. Begin reading now. Now listen to two students discussing the letter.
What did you think of Tim's letter?
I don't know. It's a nice idea, but I don't think he's thought it through. I mean, he's not thinking about the problems it'll create.
Like what?
Well, first of all, I don't think that's really the best time of day to do it.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of students don't have time to just sit around and relax. They're studying and reading, getting stuff done for their classes. So it'd be really distracting with loud music playing in the background.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Maybe in the evenings it'd be good. A good way to help people relax after a long day of studying.
Right, that might make more sense.
Also, I think it ought to be indoors somewhere. That area around the student center looks really nice now, but that would change fast if a bunch of students started hanging out there a lot.
Really? You think so?
Sure, because think about it. The audience is going to be walking all over it. Normally there aren't a lot of people on the lawn, but when you've got a crowd like that gathered for a show, well, the grass gets trampled and it dies. Eventually the area would turn to mud.
The woman expresses her opinion of the letter writer's proposal. Briefly summarize the proposal, then state her opinion about the proposal and explain the reasons she gives for holding that opinion.
Please prepare your answer after the beep. Please begin speaking after the beep.
In this question, you will read a short passage on an academic subject and then listen to a talk on the same topic. You will then answer a question using information from both the reading passage and the talk. After the question, you will have 30 seconds to prepare your response and 60 seconds to speak. A student has written a letter to the campus newspaper. You will have 50 seconds to read the letter. Begin reading now.
Now, listen to part of a lecture in a biology class.
Now this can be seen in a certain type of small fish called the minnow. Minnows are hunted by a larger fish called a lake trout. Some minnows have learned to react to the smell of lake trout, mainly by gathering close together and not moving around much, because this makes it harder for lake trout to find and eat the minnows. So, scientists explored the phenomenon we've been talking about by conducting an experiment. They exposed a group of minnows to the odors of two different kinds of fish that the minnows had never seen before. One kind was another species of trout called a brook trout, which, even though a different species, was still similar in some ways to lake trout. The other kind of fish was not a trout at all. It was a totally different kind of fish. So when the minnows smelled the brook trout, they knew it smelled similar to the lake trout. So they behaved the same way as when they smelled the lake trout. That is, they gathered close together and didn't move much, even though they'd never encountered the brook trout before. But when they smelled the other type of fish, the one that wasn't a trout, they behaved normally. They did not respond as if they sensed they were in danger.
Explain how the example of minnows and trout illustrates the concept of generalization to avoid predators.
Please prepare your answer after the beep. Please begin speaking after the beep.
In this question, you will listen to a short lecture. You will then be asked to summarize important information from the lecture. After you hear the question, you will have 20 seconds to prepare your response and 60 seconds to speak. Listen to part of a lecture in an education class.
So, we've been talking about how teachers can make a classroom run smoothly.
And, of course, it's important to have rules in the classroom to make sure students behave well. But just making rules doesn't guarantee that children are going to follow them. In order to make sure children will follow the rules, there are a couple of strategies that are helpful for teachers when they make rules. One strategy is to explain the purpose of the rule, because if students understand why the rules exist, they're more likely to follow them. Let me give you an example. I used to teach elementary school, young kids, and at the beginning of the year, I talked to my class about how I didn't want them to have snacks, food, or drinks in the classroom. After I announced this rule, I explained why I didn't want them eating in class, to keep the room clean, because if a student spilled food, there'd be a mess, or it might damage books and desks. Also, food or crumbs might attract insects. Once everyone understood the purpose of the rule, it made more sense, and the children were more likely to follow it. Another strategy is to have the students make a commitment to follow the rule, to promise to obey the rule. So, when it came to my rule not to eat or drink in the classroom, what I did was I wrote the rule on a poster and then asked each child to sign it, saying they'd follow the rule. After everyone signed their name, I put the poster up in the front of the class. This reminded the students they'd made this promise, this commitment. Because they had made a commitment, they were more likely to follow the rule. It really worked.
Using points and examples from the talk, explain 2 strategies teachers use to ensure students will follow classroom rules.
Please prepare your answer after the beep. Please begin speaking after the beep.